Hello everybody. So I'd done a video a little while back just giving a brief overview of what the livery editor could do. This time I'm going to go a little more in depth because there are quite a few little features and things you can do which aren't quite as obvious as they would seem. So we will begin. So obviously this is your panel and you have your different tabs along the bottom. We'll start at the left hand side and work our way across. So you have base colour and part colour. So at the moment our bike is painted white. We'll change that. So now the bike goes red. Our part colour is green. So you can select an individual part and click. And it'll paint that part. I'll paint that one and that one. Right. You have X and Y scale. Not entirely sure why you have scale, mirror and world scale on this panel, because you're not scaling anything. Those actually only really need to apply to decals and text and things like that, but you're painting a complete part. It doesn't matter how big or how small you make what you're pointing at, it's still only painting one part, so you don't really need to worry about those. So that's your base colour and your part colour. I'll make that one green as well. Then you have your decals, which is split into several groups. You have shapes, which are things like squares, rounded squares, circles, triangles, stars, arrows, stripy lines, checkered flags, various round shapes and swooshes and stripes and things. You then have brushes, which I'm not sure why that isn't showing the first one. It seems to change occasionally. Sometimes it'll, oh, it's done it there as well on shapes and logos. It seems to just sometimes not show the first one. I'm not sure why. Anyway, so you got shapes, you have brushes, which there aren't that many, but you can use them in quite a handy way. You have coloured logos, so there's things like Forelock and Black Diamond. You also have black and white logos, which although they are technically black and white, what that just means is they're single colour. Like that's green, or you could change it to a different colour, but you have a few there. I do wish they'd make that one, but without the text at the top. Nearly all the other logos have either a text logo, a shape logo, or a both logo, but that one doesn't. You could use that hexagon shape as a nice pattern along the bike. You really could. You could sort of go like, that looked quite cool. Right, what I actually did there was undo and redo, which are up there, but they're also on your left thumbstick on the Oculus Rift. I presume they'd be the same on a Vive or any other virtual reality system. Right, so those are the 4 different sets of things you get. Now we'll get into various controls. So first of all, on the right thumbstick, if you do left or right, it will rotate it 90 degrees left or right. Up and down on the right thumbstick is scale. So up scales up, down scales down. Actually, I'll just change the colour to make it a little bit easier. There we go. So it's blue. No, screw it, I'll make it even easier to see. There we go, white. You can see that on any colour. Right, so you can scale up or down. Because both of those are turned on, it scales both in the X, which is left to right, and in the Y, which is up and down. If you was to turn off scale in the X, it won't scale in the left to right. So it just does that. Or, if you set it the other way, it only scales it in the X and not in the Y. Mirror mode is exactly what it sounds like. If you stamp something on this side of the bike, it will appear on the other side of the bike as well. So we'll put one there, and when you turn it around, there it is. But it is a mirror. It's a mirror image, so things will appear backwards on the opposite side. So the way you can avoid that with most things, if it's something like text, for example, synergy, we'll put synergy there, and it's mirrored. So it comes out backwards there. So you turn mirror off for that one, stamp it there, spin it around, and then stamp it there, and that works. World scale is a little bit different, because what I'll show you is this. So if you compare that logo to the size of that panel, and then you go scale up like that, the logo scales up with it. And if you scale the bike all the way down, the logo still scales down, so it's still relative to the size of the bike. Now, if you turn on world scale, the logo will always stay the same size. You can still scale the logo up and down like that, but the relative size in comparison to the bike will change. So at the moment the bike's quite small. If we make the bike quite big, in comparison the logo is now small. Yeah? If we make it, yeah, that's a prime example. As you scale it up and down, the logo is staying the same size, or rather it's keeping its size in relation to the bike scale changing. So you can either have it scale up and down with the bike as you zoom in and out. So if you just want to see better on the bike, but you still want the logo to be the same size, turn world scale off. It just means you can place it a bit easier. But if you zoom right out like that, it's still relative and it's a bit trickier to try and position. But sometimes you want to put a small logo on a big bike and you don't want to be scaling all the way down like that. So you can turn world scale on and off, which is very handy. Right, next is actually I'll just move that bike over there a little bit. You can rotate the bike by squeezing either of on the Oculus we call them the grab triggers. It's the ones on the underside. So you can either grab it with the right hand one or grab it with the left hand one. If you grab it with both and move your hands apart or closer together, you can scale it up or down, like you can with Google Maps on your phone. If you click both and move both hands in the same direction, you can move the bike, and that includes away or towards. So you can do things like, if the bike's quite far away and it's quite big, and you try bringing it towards you, it takes a little bit of a while to get there. So we'll move that back. What you can do is to shrink the bike down small, bring it towards you, and then zoom it to what size you need, and you can get it to you quite quickly. Or if you can put it all the way back over there and then scale up, and you can get it quite far away. So it's basically either one trigger or both triggers, and then it's a case of moving both hands together or moving both hands in opposite directions. to scale or move your bike. So on to the next one, text. Now this is just adding text to your bike. Now you have several fonts. It's not just for adding numbers. So back to the front. So we'll go with that one. And you have your main colour, which is the white bit there. You have your outline, which is just there. And then you have your underlay, which is the colour behind that. So for example, we can go red, okay, yellow. Oh, I didn't pick yellow, I picked a very black yellow. And for grey, we will go purple. I still picked a grey purple. There we go. There, bike moved. It's because my head's turned to the side and I turned back and it decided that the tracking was off slightly, so it resets the bike for you. That's not a problem. But yes, so there's your text. If you click the keyboard logo, it comes up with a standard keyboard. You can delete things. Actually, take shift off. Yeah. Yeah, bikes! And you can get your text like that, which is very nice. You've got scale, again, X and Y. So if you do your stick up and down, it scales it. And you can do it in just one direction or just the other direction. You have mirror mode, but remember this is text, so if it stamps it down on the other side it's going to be backwards. What I will do is, there we go. So you never really want to use mirror mode on text unless you're using part of a letter, say like the curves on the B, and you turn it like sideways or something, and you just want that as a particular effect to curve with a certain body panel or something like that. That's a reason why you'd use mirror in text, but other than that you never really would. Okay, you have filter, and this is where and how you apply things to the bike. So you still have your scale mode because this is still related to the last thing that you was holding. So like we was holding text. If we change to decal and we pick that and then we go to filter, it's holding the decal. We go back to the text and we go back to filter, it's holding the text. Okay, so you still have your scale, you still have your mirror, and you still have your world scale. They all still apply, including world scale. So it's like, yep, it looks tiny, or you make the bike small and it looks huge. So your world scale and all that sort of thing still works. But you have all parts, so it's like that, and it spans across several parts. You can have single part, and it will only project onto one part, like that, or like that, or like that. Or you have custom, which is basically you turn on by clicking which parts you want to allow the decals and things to go over. So we'll say that one, that one, that one, and that one, and we'll do those, but not this one. In fact, no, we'll make it easier. We'll do it that way. So you then click done, and your text logo, make it bigger so you can see. It doesn't appear on these because they're turned off, but it appears on those. So what that is handy for, doing it like that, is with single parts, as you saw, make it a bit smaller. So you can get it there like that, and you go, yeah, bikes. But if you then wanted the rest of the word to appear on that one, it doesn't quite work because the B is too far over, because it always grabs it from like the central point. So you couldn't do that. So if need be, what you can do is go into custom, so say done. So you could stamp that one down there like that, and then if you really needed to, you can go back in, edit, turn off that one, and say done. You could do it like that. But if that's the case, you might as well just have both parts turned on. But it's handy, so you can make it appear on like one part there and one part there, but not the one in the middle. Yeah? So that's what filters is for, and you will find that you will switch between all three modes quite often. Whereas like you might want to do that across all parts. You might want to do that only on one part, or you might want to do it like that across several, but not all of them. So you'll end up switching backwards and forwards. Right, we'll turn that back onto all parts so we can play about with everything. Right, the final panel is layers. You have paint layers, and well, you have a paint layer, well, a paint group and a decals group. All of your paint interactions, I'll make that small again so we can see, all of your paint interactions, so it's like these green panels held in there, and you can go in and you can, we'll spin it around because this was on this side, right. So you can turn the visibility on or off. For a certain part. You can change the colour for that individual part, like that. Or if you decide you don't want any secondary paint on that one, well, actually you can move that up a layer and down a layer, but it doesn't really matter on this because paint layers are always underneath decals. It's really that layer, the layers up and down thing is really because it's included in the paint layers. But if you really didn't want that purple one at all and you just wanted it to be red, rather than changing that to red paint or something like that, you could just say delete it and delete the other ones if you wanted. So we go back to paint and we go paint that one, and notice how the logos are still there even though we remove the paint. So we delete that one again. Oh, actually that was making it invisible, so there, we delete it. We'll do it on that one and that one, so you can see it better there. So you can delete the layer, and all the decals will stay on top because all the decals are kept in a separate place. This is a lot like Photoshop's layers. You can have everything on a single layer, or you can get several layers and combine them into a group. And obviously if you go into the decals, you got those logos there, so we'll delete. But that one, for example, where was that? Was it just that one? Yeah. So we actually stamped it there, and we had mirror mode on at the time to show you that it done it backwards. So you can turn mirror mode back on or off if you like. If you look at it from this side, because we actually stamped it on the other side of the bike, not this side. So that's mirror mode turned on, so it puts it back over there. And the other cool thing, if you click on it, on the actual logo, you can change what text. Go around there so you can see it. You can change what colour the logo was. Or you should be able to. Yeah, there we go. You can change it to whatever colour you like. And you can. No, it doesn't seem to be changing anything because they're already preset colours. But if it's a single colour thing, like the Synergy logo there, you can go in and you can say it was actually that didn't change. Okay, there we go, that worked. You can change it to the colour that you want. Where's the other Synergy logo? There. Okay, you can turn the visibility on or off, move the layers up or down. Prime example of layers, that Synergy logo is underneath that yeah bikes thing. So you can move that up some layers. Oh, wrong button. So it's got to be this last one. No. Oh, there. Okay. There we go. So you can put things on top of things, which is very nice. But, say for example, you wanted to do some text that said, no, that's the wrong example. We'll do shapes. Right, so we'll have a square. We'll make it a bit thinner, but we'll make it, oh, there we go. We'll make it a lot longer. Yeah? So, you could, if you wanted, do a stripe as one whole line if you make it really big. Or you may choose to do it in several sections, for example. Like that. And when you look in your layers, you have your paint layer? Oh yeah, no. So we haven't got any paint applied, so that's why that's not showing up. And these are just in loose layers. So you can change the order of them, you can change the colour of them. For example, we'll go I don't know why it doesn't always change it on the first one. Oh, there, because I'm stupid. Okay, so as you can see for that one, it's on top of the first one, but underneath the third one. It's on top of the first one, but underneath the third one. If you moved it up a layer, it's saying it's now on top of the first one and the third one, and it is. So that's what layers are handy for. But if we move that one back down, oh, I'll change. There we go. That's back to its original order. Right, but if we delete those, and you can create a new group, essentially, rename it, and call that something like stripe. Okay, and now you go one there, one there, one there, one there, and one there. Okay, and they all appear here in that. If you was to now do something like text, and then have a look in your layers, it's on the top layer there. No, text is still a bad example, sorry. Okay, so we'll do a different shape now. We'll do a brush. Yeah. So we'll do a brush in bright green, and there it is. So we'll scale it up. So we'll say, for example, we go like that, like that, like that, like that, and like that. You have a look in your layers, and you've got all those greens on top of your whites. And you could sit there and you could go, oh, I want to move that one down, and I want to move that one down, and I want to move that one down, and move that one down, and move that one down. And you could shuffle them all around, and eventually you'd get to where you want these green ones underneath the white ones. That's a lot of work. So what you can do, if you delete the green ones, you create another group, and we'll call that green. Okay, and we'll go that one, and that one, and that one, and that one, and that one. Now, like the up and down in the layers, you can do the same with your groups. So you want the green splodge underneath the white stripe, move it down. There you go, it's underneath. And because we're working in the green group, which is below the stripe, anything we do in this group no, that's not what I wanted. So anything we do in this group, we'll probably actually do it in there and you'll see it happen. Yeah. So these are appearing underneath the white stripe because they are underneath the white stripe in the group order. Always think of this as like order of visibility. The thing in the top, the thing on the top layer of the top group is what will always be on top here. The thing in the bottom group, in this case paint, at the very bottom, will always be at the very bottom underneath everything else. Things in between will appear at various levels in between. So that is essentially how layers work. It's very handy. And say for example you change your mind and you don't want any of those splodges, just delete them and it's gone, and it deletes all of the layers rather than having to go in and remove each one by one. Okay, another thing that I've been asked about a few times is how to do fades. It's actually really easy. So what you want is, in the brushes section, these 4 circles at the bottom, they are soft brushes. If you see, they've got like a faded edge. So you've got the first one, it's quite hard, you get a very short fade, and that one, it's a slightly softer ball and you get a slightly softer fade, slightly, well, even more softer ball and a softer fade, and then the softest of them all, which is only solid right in the middle. The rest of it starts fading. So for example, you want this white stripe to fade into that red paint. So what we would do is choose the softest one, and we'll select the paint that we used earlier, and we'll do it there, click, and it fades. But that's not great, so we'll go back into the colour and we'll drop the opacity a little bit, not much, just a little bit. And you could make it slightly smaller, and you could stamp a few of them along. Oh, and you can still see the top, so go again, and it hides it. And if need be, you go even smaller. And you can essentially just paint to fade in. Now, the reason you're getting those dark circles is because this is actually not the exact same colour as the paint. It's slightly different, which is mildly annoying, but you can work with it. This is just showing you how to do it. And obviously if you want to make it a little bit stronger on the opacity again, so it's only just slightly see-through, you can do that. You can paint out hard edges like that. It might take, if you have the opacity set on full, then obviously it's going to happen a bit quicker. For example, there. If you have the opacity set on quite low, I'll back up a couple of these. There we go. If you have the opacity set quite low, it's only going to add a small amount. So, how do you use that in a practical sense? Well, see, it's remembering all them. So that's the original paint. Right, so we will go to our paint layer. Want our secondary colour to be black. Okay. So now we go to our decal, and if we choose black, we'll try it with a slightly, try with a slightly harsher edge. So you don't want to go too far over, because then you're painting a load into there. No, actually, forget that. I'll go onto the soft brush again. Don't like that. Okay, so we will set the opacity slightly. If you have the centre of the thing right on the seam, then it's going to seem quite dark. Just want to check something. Oh no, it is on all parts. Okay. Yeah, if you click right in this, on the edge, it will seem quite dark. If you're not careful, you need to space it out. So that's doing that weird thing again. It's making it jet black in the centre on only one click. Okay, so we'll set the opacity a bit more to counter that. No, it's still doing it. Don't know why. Let's try that again. An even softer opacity. And on a big section. There we got that one there, and that one there, and they work. But if you put one in between, then they go really, really dark. That's not good. Even on a stupid opacity. Let's have a look. That one, and that. That's. Well, it's not taking much for it to go really dark. But you can work with it, and you sort of. But yeah, I don't know why that's not doing it properly. It should. It's like it's messing up the fades. I'm going to turn on world scale again. Is it because... No, it's definitely doing it. If you get the fade a bit too close to it, the other one, then it just goes ridiculously dark really quick. Devs need to fix that. But yeah, essentially it's just stamping bits down. But if you can't do it that way, make that panel black and then use the red, fade it in that way. So that kind of works better. Like that. Yeah? And then we'll go back in and we'll do paint that one. Put the decal. There you go. That's how you get a nice fade. Actually, I'll bring that one in as well. Oh, I don't like that first bit. It's an off-world scale as well. We'll go there, 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 and there in the corner. It's just nice. If you're doing certain decals, actually what I'll do, I'll dump this bike now. And I'll go back to this bike. Right. Come to me, my pretty. So I've used the fade here and in there and there and a little bit in there as well. And so you can use it, it's very subtle in here. Oh, I also used it just up in there as well. As I said, it's very subtle, but it's a way that you can either have something seem to go transparent, because like this is grey on top of black, so you'd use an opaque black and fade it out a little bit and it look like it's going transparent to paint. Or you can use it for adding shadows in corners, but you shouldn't really need to because the bike as a whole already has its own shadow map. So it gives like little dark sections in corners of the engine and things like that. But you might want to sort of put a little shadow in under here and things like that, or in there, and you can use it for that sort of thing as well. So that's quite nice. But I think that pretty much covers it. Oh, there are some things. Oh, I'll come back out of that one. Just go changes. Go back to that one, which is this thing. Yeah, as something to be aware of. A few people have come across it, and it can cause problems. And I'll show you a few prime examples of where it happens. Actually, we'll go with that. We'll go with logos because it might be easier to see. We'll go with that one. So, yeah, you can see it there. See, I'm putting the logo here, but it's also appearing on here and in here. Now, the reason for that is it's not using a UV map, so it's like this entire bike is laid out flat and you're painting on those flat parts. You're essentially, think of it like a projector. So you've got your bike is the screen and your controller is a projector. So if you shine it straight onto the bike, If I make it a bit smaller, shine it straight onto the bike, it appears straight. But if you tilt the way the projection angle comes from, it stretches and distorts it. And the same happens on curves and things, which is something you have to be careful of. So, like, you could put it there and it looks square, but I'm not changing the scale or anything, I'm just tilting the angle of the controller. And it'll alter its shape. So that's one thing, but because it's a projection, what you're essentially doing, if you've got mirror mode turned on, you're projecting from this side, and the blue line that's coming off the controller, if you look where that's going, it's going onto there, straight through to the bike on the other side, over here, which is the equivalent of being directly opposite here. So this picture is shining from here straight through to there, so it's hitting there. But it's because mirror mode is on, it's here and mirrored here, but because the projection is actually shining through all the way to there, it's appearing there and mirrored here as well. So the way you can counter that in most ways, most times, is single part. But in this case, you might be able to see it here, just there. There's a single part, but if you move it there, it's appearing on the other side because it's still mirrored. Turn that off, it doesn't happen. So in these cases, you'll have to sort of work between single part and maybe custom setup and mirroring and not mirroring, because I'll do it as all parts and I'll show you what happens. Okay, so we stamped it down there, and in mirror mode we should expect it to be there, which it is, but that line shone through to... oh shit, bike moved. That line shone through from there through to here, and that's why it's projecting here. And because we've got mirror mode turned on, this bit is getting mirrored onto there. So yeah, like I said, it'll have to be a combination of either, like in that case it does that, but single part, it's only affect because it was affecting here and here on all parts, because it's able to span across several things. So you put it on single part and it still affects that one. Put it on mirror and it doesn't even affect that because it's not shining through to there and getting mirrored on here. What you could possibly do, yeah, you can do all parts but not mirrored, and the projection hits this and stops. Or if mirrored is on, it will get bounced through and back again, and single part it will kind of do the same. So it's mainly down to mirroring, but sometimes you'll need mirroring but you don't want that to happen, so you'll have to switch it to single part or even custom in this case. As you can see, this part, I'll turn all the others off, this part is all one chunk, so you do have to be careful, but you can get away with a lot of it by turning mirroring off, so that's quite handy. I think that pretty much covers everything. If there's anything else, then if I see other questions about this sort of thing crop up, then I will cover those things in another video perhaps. So until then, I don't need that bike by the way. Here's a nice example of a fade. That was actually done using 3 colours. I'd done the primary colour of the bike was black. The secondary colour was white, which I'd done on some of the panels, and then I basically put a big grey stripe straight through the middle as a decal, and then I faded some of the black onto the grey and then some of the grey onto the white. That's how you do it. That one, as I said, it's got a little bit of fade in certain parts just to work as like a sort of shadow in. That wasn't really anything fancy, although all those stripes were done in one go, because you paint the bike yellow and then you pick the multiple stripes brush and just make it really, really large, and that stamps across there. That stripe was done using 2 decals, and they are on top of the purple paint but below the Vertex Breaker stickers. What's the last one? Oh yeah, that was my very first one. That doesn't particularly use any fancy techniques other than single part, or custom part rather. Turned on 2 parts there, left everything else turned off, put a sticker across them. Same with that arrows there. But yeah, there you go. So hopefully you've learned a few things. If you haven't, not my problem. Bye.